r/AskReddit. Users of Reddit, what is the worst thing you've ever woken up to? A few weeks ago my pet rat died. I buried him under a fig tree. A few days ago, my puppy dug him up while I was sleeping, came through the dog door with his decaying corpse, and threw it at me to play fetch. I woke to being hit by my dead beloved pet who promptly broke into pieces on me, a stench that I still haven't managed to get out of my nose, and an incredibly disappointed pup who just wanted me to play with her and her fun new toy. While it's not the worst thing that has happened, some of you here have such honestly heartbreaking stories, and I'm so sorry. It was still a rather unpleasant way to wake up. Woke up an hour later than usual on a school day. My father usually was the one waking me up. I wondered why he didn't, because it had never happened before. I dress myself and go in the living room to find my father sitting on the couch. He comes up to me, tells me my mother got very drunk the night before last night and got into a car accident and died on impact, and he just bursts into tears. That was already one of the worst moments of my life. But the morning got even worse when I had to see my then 11-year-old sister get told the same thing. The dog had gotten sick on the floor. I stepped in it, slipped and fell into it. This happened to me once, but the dog got sick from the back end. It was dark. I stepped in it and slid about 6 feet before I fell. Streak of dog shit almost clean across the living room. Did your soul just pack up and leave your body for a bit during that? The single worst thing I have ever woken up to was this past Boxing Day. I was gently woken up by my family and informed that my girlfriend and her youngest sister had just been killed in a car accident, and that they didn't know whether her other sister was going to make it or not. In that moment, my life fell apart. For a moment I was just stunned into silence. They had to be wrong. She had to still be alive. I couldn't have lost her, not like that. But I knew they were telling the truth as I began desperately howling no over and over and over again until I couldn't make noise anymore. I was living with this wonderful woman. We were looking for a new apartment. We were saving up to have the magical wedding that she deserved in a year's time, and in the blink of an eye she was gone. Thankfully, her other sister did survive, but she is still in a long process of recovery that is progressing as well as it could. Worst morning of my life was getting woken up to the sound of a city crew removing a tree from the top of my truck after it collapsed. Going downstairs to answer my phone to find out I was getting dumped by a longtime girlfriend, and then checking my email to find out I had cancer, all within a half an hour of waking up. I think you win. Sadly, had a small nick in the balls, applied antiseptic liquid to clean it off, and went to sleep. Woke up in terrible pain to find my scrotum has shed off skin like a snake because of chemical burns. Edit lesson learned: don't apply undiluted antiseptic liquid anywhere. I had to apply Vaseline regularly to make sure the new skin doesn't dry, but thankfully I recovered in about 2 weeks. On the plus side, my balls are now smoother and almost have no hair, but those 2 weeks were just of constant itching and pain if I scraped off more skin. My 89-year-old uncle still missing from the night before on his way to pick up my dad from work. He never showed up to his workplace. By morning, he was still gone. About 2 hours later, in first period in school, word got around that a dead body was found on the side of the road leading up to an elementary school in the next county over. I got chills down my spine, knowing this could very well be my uncle. Before you knew it, the news was on scene, and a news story was being made. It explained that the body of an elderly man was lying on the side of the road leading up to the school, and he appeared to be deceased. His name would be given out in the next story update. I already had a bad gut feeling it was him. It was. Everyone thought he had been murdered, since he was found around 7 AM, and he had been there all night. He wasn't killed. He became disoriented while driving and turned into the wrong place. He got my mom's car stuck in some mud in a construction area and tried to pull it out by hand. He tried to walk to the highway and dropped dead of a massive heart attack. Our family was on the news for days ahead. It was traumatic. It's been 3 years since, but I sometimes think back on it and my breath gets taken away. My wife absolutely screaming from the kitchen. Obviously got out of bed quickly to find her sobbing in the kitchen with no pants on. There was a spider on the pants she was wearing and had to rip them off. I need to find a guy like you at some point because there's no way I'm ever going to have a stable marriage unless it's with someone who understands my irrational fear of bugs. Sleep paralysis and having hallucinations such as feeling like strong electricity is being led through my body. Legit thought I was going to die. While falling asleep / waking up, I also sometimes hear things that are still happening in a dream state or something like that. I once woke up to the sound of someone banging my front door with full force, and I was scared somebody was trying to break in, but it stopped as soon as the adrenaline rushed through my veins and I was fully awake. My theory is that I actually heard my guinea pigs having a mini fight and my brain wasn't able to process the sound right in its sleep state, causing me to think there was somebody outside trying to break in. A stranger urinating in my bedroom. One if my housemates had a one night stand and they drunkenly thought my room was the toilet. It was not. My boyfriend talks in his sleep sometimes. Most of the time it's clear enough to make out what he says. A few years ago we were sleeping and he suddenly sat straight up, grabbed my arm and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Bees." There were obviously no bees. Someone trying to unlock my front door a few years ago. There's a non-zero chance I simply saw it in my dream and woke up, of course, but I'm pretty sure someone tried to break in. Suffice it to say, I didn't sleep again that night. And ever since then, I tend to put a chair behind my door. Not that it'll stop anyone who wants to get in, but maybe it will give me some warning. I feel awful. I got blackout one day shortly after turning 21, and after attempting to walk myself home I instead apparently tried for a good long while to get through the front door of some random house blocks away using my key. Cop was cool about it. I wasn't being any kind of aggressive or anything like that, but I'm sure I still scared the crap out of whoever was in that house. Woke up once to my girlfriend's young siblings, 10, 8, and 6 at the time, screaming bloody murder. Ran out of my room to see their mom's boyfriend covered in blood stumbling around in front of the house. He had gotten blackout drunk and drove his truck headfirst into one of our neighbor's garages at about 50 miles per hour, and he ran from the scene to where we were staying nearby. He was in shock and bleeding from his head, and I had to yell at him to sit down because I genuinely thought he was going to keel over and die. He was screaming and asking if he was going to die, and I had to tell him I honestly didn't know. He looked like the dad from that scene in Mandy. I made my girlfriend's mom take him to the hospital. The cops came looking for him about 10 minutes after he left, obviously. I told them he went to the hospital. I don't think he died from it, if I remember correctly. Still haunts me sometimes. He also had Hep C, so that added to the terror for me. Edit. I don't know if any of you have ever told another person that they might die from their injuries and you can't do anything to help them, but it's a harrowing experience, honestly. Late edit 2. My girlfriend, still with her, reminded me that he really fucked himself up. He punctured a lung, punctured his intestine, had cranial hemorrhaging, and broke his nose and right arm. He had to be medevaced to a much larger hospital. Wear your seatbelts, people, I beg of you. I was home from out of state for a wedding and staying in my childhood bedroom. My older sister was staying at my parents' as well. Woke up to her, very drunk, saying she fell and needed a second opinion on how bad the injury was. This was additionally shocking because she is an alcoholic and, as far as we all knew, had been sober for many years. Turned on the light and it looked like part of her forehead was concave. I've never been fully awake so fast. Drove her to the while she argued with me the whole way and tried to talk me into just stopping at a convenience store for glue. She was in her late 30s. It was heartbreaking and scary. A Cleveland steamer. Seriously. See, I had me a Jack Russell Lab mix puppy when I was younger. Was playing around with her on my bed and just kind of took a nap with her on my chest. Cute, right? Until that puppy shit leaked out her ass and onto to me. The smell woke me up, but not before she managed to roll all in it and on me and the sheets. Perfect. Worst I've experienced, animal wise, was feeling something on my face while waking up, went to wipe it off, and squashed a really big tarantula. Those hairs are like fiberglass. 2 AM. 35 degrees F outside. This loud knocking on the front door by a county sheriff with his lights flashing. One of my cars had gotten through a fence and gotten onto the road. Of course, the calf was black, and a semi didn't see it in the dark. The calf absolutely exploded on impact, and one of its hooves and most of the leg went through the windshield and killed the driver. My mom yelling for my dad that a pipe in the bathroom had burst. I got up, thinking I should see if I needed to help, and my feet squished into my wet carpet. Came awake super fast at 4:30 and began the long process of us moving furniture and ripping up carpet while also dealing with the insurance. None of us went to work or school that day. Runner up, my son waking me up to tell me his little sister, whose crib was in his room, had thrown up on their floor. He stepped back and proceeded to throw up on my floor. Without that step back, he would have thrown up on me in bed. Honorable mention, walking into my daughter's room one morning and finding she'd finger painted the wall with the contents of the diaper she'd taken off. This is why I can't have children. I would not be able to deal with the throwing up. I can barely handle myself when I get sick. In 2017, my girlfriend at the time, Marissa, fake name for story, overdosed on heroin one night. She'd been clean for about a year at that point. I woke up before my alarm with my phone ringing, a call from her mom at 6 AM. I had that sinking feeling, like I knew something was wrong, and she told me Marissa overdosed and was in the hospital. Her brother came home, found her outside on the porch slumped with a half-smoked cigarette, and they saved her with Narcan. The next night, I slept at her house, with her sleeping on a mattress on the floor and me on the couch next to her. We talked all night about everything. In the morning, she secretly went to the bathroom and snorted just 1/4 of a bag, the same bags of dope from the night before. I woke up, looked over the edge of the couch, and Marissa was choking and gasping laying on her back. I yelled and slapped and screamed, ran up the stairs to her dad, and yelled call 911, she overdosed again. I did rescue breathing, could hear faint heartbeat, but breath was like a zombie, I swear, scary AF every minute or so. Ambulance arrived and she was revived /Narcan, most intense moments of my life waiting for that. A blurty BH. Later we were together again, and things were great. She stole money from me, so we weren't talking for a while. We reunited at the end of 19 feet, even got a hotel on New Year's. Then she disappeared. Literally had everyone calling me. Sold her car, and bought a motel and did drugs. Covered stimulus check was a boost for her run. She came back, went to rehab, we wrote letters back and forth. Got home, and she had met someone else in rehab, took me a while to come to terms with, but I did. But then she passed away sadly of an overdose. That was July 1st this year. Another sad morning, and now I have mostly sad mornings, but I get through the day. It's gotten better lately. Few months ago oldest kid came and got me and said that youngest had thrown up everywhere. I grumbled all the way to the bedroom only to find out that she'd swallowed over 120 prescription meds and left a suicide note written in Sharpie on her stomach. The bedroom lights wouldn't even turn on because she'd thrown up so much that it ran into an outlet and tripped the breaker. She was seizing and jerking, never seen anything like it. She survived and seems to be okay now, thank goodness for a strong body. Now the journey is in getting her spirit and mind strong. Sleeping on the floor in an empty room at a friend's house. A friend of his decided it would be funny to burst into the door yelling, "Get him," and proceeded to fake attack me. Pretty harmless except for the fact that I was sleeping in this room because 4 days prior I was mugged and had every dollar I had left stolen from me. I was a little scarred, and that was not a pleasant feeling to be reminded of, lol. This is something I can actually attribute to I had a yellow jacket nest right outside my house, inside my porch. I found one inside. I didn't think too much about it. I thought maybe it just managed to find its way in through the door or windows. The next day I woke up to about 20 plus yellow jackets on my chest and around my mouth/nose and a bunch more just buzzing throughout my room. They found a way in through the foundation of the house and were coming from a corner in my room. I have a daughter who has cerebral palsy. She was 3 years old at the time. I way overslept one morning. I was in a post-bachelor's program, taking 17 credits, working 32 hours/week, and doing 24 hours of clinical/week, and must have been exhausted. My wife had gone somewhere pretty early as well, don't remember where. When I went in to check on my little girl, she had been seizing for hours. The bed was drenched in spit, she was foaming at the mouth, and was completely vacant and unresponsive. At first glance, I was sure she had aspirated saliva or gastric juice and was dying or having an anoxic brain injury. I absolutely lost my shit. She's pretty much fine now, though. It was just a deep seizure, no real brain damage, and she grew out of them by her early teens. I once woke up to a pillow drenched in vomit. A girl I was sleeping with, platonically, puked during the night and just left it there.